Okay, good. Good morning. Morning, Judge. Simmons County Commission Court come to order. It's Tuesday, 26th day of April 2022, 9:30 a.m. It's now 9:33 a.m. It's a regular meeting agenda. Where's Bobby Hall?
Here.
Okay, Bobby, if you'll open the prayer, remember the man down at Smith Point was lost. Yes, sir.
Lord, we come before you this morning to certainly business of Chambers County. We ask you, Lord, purpose to give all of us wisdom as decisions are made that may be made in your will. Lord, we have many in our community that are hurting right now. There's children who have lost today. We have our people out looking at keep them safe, and we pray, Lord, that they will find him from that. Give them wisdom as they search. Lord, we have many in our community that are hurting right now. Losses, sickness, and everything. Lord, we just lift them all up. We don't know them all by name, but you know them. That's what this Lord. Lord, we just ask you again, just give us each wisdom to carry on your business.
Amen. Constant pledges. Pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you. I was nice to have you back. Not to worry about who's going to pray.
Thank you, Judge. I don't mind being the best either anyway.
We need. You're at the Baptist church on Sunday. What's the difference?
Yeah. I think you need to pray again, Doc. Take all help we can.
All right, George, you had something you wanted to share?
Yes, sir. Slipped all the commissioners and yourself know that our Eagle Scouts is official as of Saturday. The young man that brought these flag boxes to the three locations in the county as of Saturday. Official Eagle Scout. It will be a ceremony and he's gonna invite all of us to it, coming in the next week or so. I
Cool.
just wanted to let you know.
Awesome.
Congratulations.
Yes, sir. And also
Thanks,
there's
George.
3 Eagle Scouts from the Mount Belgium area named on the same night. That was quite a feat.
It is.
Yes, sir.
All right, citizens' comments. You have 3 minutes to make your comment. Chris Williams. Mr. Williams. Come on up, sir. Good morning.
Good morning.
And you're addressed in the motorboats in Turtle Bayou.
Yes, sir. It's been an issue that's been going on for a little bit. If you're in the bayou, much of anybody that's ever been up there knows the sharp turns. The boats are getting bigger and they're coming through a little faster, and those that are in smaller boats that work well in the bayou are at their mercy, and they don't see them until they come around the corner and just about wash us out of our boats. Plus the erosion on the banks. They don't realize each time they come through, if there's a tree that's on its way over, they just speed the process up. And as those trees and the roots erode and fall in, that's more hazards. Plus people, landowners are losing the bank and silting the bayou in, plus the lake as it flushes out there.
Yes.
So we'd like to have that slowed down. If not, motors put on hold whenever they're back up the bayous like that, especially with what's happened across the river and the bayous with that tragedy with the families. It affected a whole community, and we sure don't want that here with the incoming people coming into the neighborhoods here that are unaware of how a lot of people just sit on the bayou and enjoy it and fish. That we don't need that.
Thank you, sir. All right, Robert Harris. Same agenda item 6.3. Morning, sir.
Morning.
Yeah.
I don't think I could say a whole lot more than what Chris said. He's a lot more speaking good than I am. But I hate to see laws that people don't need, but at the same time, I don't want to see people hurt. And I seen his kayak coming down through there in big old boats. run right up on them. And it's just a shame. I pull people off of stumps because they don't know that they're there, you know, with my boat. And I'd gladly give up my boat running down the Lake Anahuac to keep somebody from getting hurt. And that's the main thing.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, Ella Kramer, Ms. Kramer, you're here on.
Yes, I'm
Oh,
here.
good morning, man. Pull that down a little bit. Go ahead.
Okay, I.
Are you
have
here on the nuisance abatement?
Yes.
The one,
16 franchise.
Yeah, 9.1.
9.1. Okay, if you don't mind waiting a few minutes, we'll get to that in just a moment.
okay, that's fine.
Thank you. Larry Moore. Good morning, Larry. You're on 3.5. You want to wait?
Can I proceed?
Yes, sir. You may go ahead.
Good morning, Judge Sylvia, Commissioners, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Larry Marr.
Let's just go into that item, Larry. 3.5, discuss, consider approving 3,800 for Dan and Bob Engineering subcontractor CJ Hinch and Associates Inc. to collect traffic data at 4 intersections as part of signal warrant analysis on FM 1409 at FM 565 South, River Farms, Churchill Downs, and Perry Gill. Go ahead.
Thank you. The county has requested us to look at the possibility of traffic signals at those 4 intersections. The first step is to obtain vehicle counts, pedestrian counts at those intersections. CJ Hinch is a subcontractor, and they are prepared to obtain those counts. We ask that we get those counts before the school season ends. And so hopefully we can get that started. They're ready to go as soon as we give them the authorization.
Judge Corey's on there too, but yes, we're.
All right, Corey.
Good morning, Court.
Go ahead, Bobby.
Corey and I have discussed this, and I think it's a good plan.
Yeah, it's something that's needed. So
We talked about the intersection of Perry and Gill. We haven't discussed the other ones. Where are the funds for that? Have we got the funds to do all 3 of them?
well, we're going to look at it. There is money left over in the project.
Yeah, I know, but
And whether we have money or not to do it, we probably would have, but I don't know if it's gonna warrant it this time, but we thought we'd look at it.
Yeah, I believe Larry and I have talked about this as well. I think Perry and Gill and certainly 565 South have some pretty good opportunities for warrants. The other 2 might not, but we want to go ahead and look at all of them just to make sure that we're giving everybody, every intersection an equal opportunity. And we'll just follow what the data says. And once we get the data and run through the warrants, then we'll proceed with, an official request to TxDOT for concurrence on our process and decision-making towards, actually getting this implemented as a change order into the project on the 1409.
is this for a traffic control matter?
This is for traffic lights. Yeah, and it's just the study to see if these intersections warrant that.
Yeah.
We feel like at least 2 of them will, as Corey said, 565 South and Perry Gill. Entertain a motion.
So moved, Your Honor. Second.
Motion by Commissioner Tice, second by Commissioner Hammond. Those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Larry, is that all you have?
That's all I have.
Thank you. All right, Corey, stay
Thank you,
on.
Larry.
We'll go ahead and get road and bridge done.
Thank
All right, thank you.
3.1, discuss, consider approving a supplemental interlocal cooperation agreement between Chambers County and Chambers County Improvement District Number 1 related to a green belt buffer along FM 2354 and improvements to Fisher Road. Commissioner Collins.
Man,
Yep.
All
long
right, I
time
got-
coming, but the day is here.
We ain't approved it yet. Hey. Brian?
All right.
Hello, John.
Well, the opportunity is here. Put it that way. Well, you know, this has been going on for some time, and it is an agreement for the green belt, but it also gives CCID number one the right to extend their expansion of Fisher Road up to Cedar Gully. It would still leave about 3,000 feet of Fisher Road in its current condition and weight restricted. So the weight restriction on Fisher Road would remain exactly as it is today with no change. And it will also allow them to access their property without having to get on 2354 to do so. That's the really good thing about, you know, getting them off of Fisher Road. I know a lot of people don't want to give up Fisher Road, but it's a much easier or much better, much safer route to 99 than trucks coming down 2354 to access that 800 acres that they have on the north side of Fisher Road. And then what it does on the green belt, just to hit a couple of highlights on it. It will be a minimum of 100-foot wide green belt. That's the bare minimum with an average of at least 175 feet over the entire area. And the intent of the green belt is to, the landscaping berm in the green belt will create a sight and sound barrier, and the height and density of the landscaping berm will be engineered to properly serve as a substantial aid, sight obstruction and noise deflector between development with Cedar Port and residential homes. So there is some exhibits in the packet that show about what it's going to look like. And I want to recognize Mayor Ryan Dagley. You know, he has helped tremendously on this. John Klein has been here, helped a lot. James Scott couldn't be with us today. He's got a little ailment on his feet, so he couldn't come. But would either one of you like to make a comment or say anything?
I filled out a form just so.
Morning, Mayor. Yeah, pass it in there.
Morning, Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you, Court. Thank you, Judge. Just on behalf of the city of BC, you know, working on this project or this agreement with the CCID one has been a big undertaking, but I think it's a task that I applaud Commissioner Combs for really leading the effort. I can tell the community, the public, and the court that there was a lot of back and forth going on with CCID.
That's an understatement.
Well, it is an understatement, but it's really good. It was really good dialogue, and I can't thank CCID one enough for coming to the table and continuing to negotiate this agreement, because at the end of the day, there's no obligation for them to do that. And I think at the end of the day, this agreement is going to set a precedent for going forward for all industry in precinct 4 for sure, hopefully in the county wide, for any kind of development that's going to butt up next to residential dwellings or residential homes and communities. It's going to increase the nice feel that we have in the community of the CB city, and it's going to try to protect that as much as possible. And I think it's a great agreement. Again, I applaud Commissioner Combs for getting this done and the court for considering it. So thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. John, anything?
No, just on behalf of CCID one and Cedar Port, we thank the court for
Okay.
working with us as well.
And I'll say, I've been a part of a few of these meetings, but not all of them. You guys worked really hard and hammered on it. Also Nathan Brandon, outside counsel, has been in there with you. So thank you all. Appreciate it. Motion by Commissioner Combs, second by Commissioner Tice.
Before we vote, I want to extend a great, I agree with the mayor. CCID number one, TGS has stepped up to the plate and setting a precedence. And I do applaud you for doing that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Thank you.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Day to celebrate. Now you celebrate. All
All right. Yay.
right, I'm gonna skip to Parks and Recreation. Take care of these two gentlemen. They probably don't sit around here all morning.
Did you say?
Let's go to 6.3, discuss and consider ordinance requiring trolling motors only from the bridge at I-10 to the Chambers County line on Turtle Bow. Commissioner,
Yes,
Sure.
this has been brought to me by the citizens around the Turtle Isle there, also as well as Indian Trails there. Been several near misses within that bio, and like I was saying, we have a lot of kayakers that patrol that area, as well as people fishing in smaller boats, and we've had some boats nearly hit, as well as swamps. And I spoke with Ashley, and she can elaborate on it. We have the authority to set this here. So I mean, I would like to see us move forward with it, and I think actually, do we need a public hearing?
No, sir.
We do not.
In the Parks and Wildlife Code, oh, thank you. Parks and Wildlife Code 31.092 gives us the authority to put in rules and regulations related to boating safety, water safety, other things like that. So we have the authority to put that in place with no other,
so your motion is going to be to require trolling motors only from the bridge I-10 to Chambers County line or Turtle Bow, and for road and bridge department to install signage.
Yes, sir, we'll have signage made and install it there, right there past north side of the bridge going up the mountain on both sides.
Okay, entertain a motion by Commissioner Gore.
So we
Second by Commissioner Tice. But questions? Question.
Talking to Parks and Wildlife, that trolling motor ordinance is not enforceable,
not by them.
not by them, so.
right. So it's not enforceable by Parks and Wildlife game wardens, but it is enforceable by the sheriff's office. So it is enforceable, just not by the game wardens.
Right.
Sheriff, you want to weigh in?
Well, I always find it a little bit of a concern when you're taking and if we want to get more aggressive with the no wake, that might be a better route before we eliminate people that currently use the bio with boats that don't have trolling motors. But that's just an option. I mean, something to think about. It's just when you start changing the way people's behavior are, and you now are requiring them to buy another $1,000 apparatus, depending upon the style of boat that they have. Just a thought. I mean, we're putting a limitation on them, and I fully understand the no wake, and we can work on trying to enforce that more. But the distance from the boat ramp at White Park, because that's where most of them are launching, is at White Park. Going into the lake is not any reason why they can't just essentially idle and get to it. And if they're going upstream towards Liberty County, it's really not that. There's not, I like to say, I can't speak to the gentleman here that may live along there and spend it, but I fully understand the canoes and the kayaks. I do totally agree with the no wake zone because there is no need to have speed, and that has become a very popular kayak and canoe area. But I'm just myself personally, and then asking my deputies to take somebody who's been putting a boat in that bio for the last 25 years who does not have a trolling motor. And then what's our limitations? Can we use an airboat? There's all kinds of things that we need to consider before we put this out there.
Good point.
And I will say that you do have a lot of options. Like you're saying, that there are a lot of options on what Commissioners Court can approve. It's kind of, from the way that I read it, pretty open-ended as far as safety related to boating, swimming our waters. So, it may be something that y'all want to get together and really hammer down some specific rules.
So we have no wake zone at 563 in Turtle Bow.
Correct.
Right.
Is that the only spot on the bow?
That's the only part that I'm aware
Let me
of.
say.
So Parks and Wildlife can enforce a no wake zone. Is that correct, or can they?
Yes, they can.
So we would get a lot more patrolling with a no wake zone than we would get with a trolling motor.
Yeah, if it's a state law, then they can.
I understand, but I don't
Right.
think there's gonna be anybody out there really enforcing it.
Either one of them.
Well, the old no wake zone, at least the Parks and Wildlife can.
Yes, yeah.
Let's make them both and no wake.
Well,
That's fine. with me.
I'm sorry.
There no way right now.
Yeah, there is from 563 over to. over
To the
lake.
bridge, I think to Interstate 10 bridge out to the lake, there's no wake.
Yeah, there's a sign there.
We did that many years ago, back in, I think, 15, 20 years ago, we
We
put
were
those,
both here.
yeah, I know it. We put those no wake signs up at that point in time. I remember having our group put them up. And like I say, if it's enforceable, then fine. Now, the problem is, I mean, enforcing is gonna be the tough part, and the sheriff can allude to that. And
Well,
also the game
so-
wardens too. I mean, it's, to be on that bow, I mean, it's a 24/7 thing.
It should probably be a little bit of a warning to the court that Parks and Wildlife couldn't enforce it.
Yeah.
Right, because
Right.
you know, we're creating something that is not the norm. So,
If we
you
go
know,
with both, the no way and control, I mean, I don't have a problem with it. I mean, just, I mean, when you listen to the people in there and the file was so narrow. I mean,
I agree 100%, but I think we need something that's enforceable
well, I
and that
mean,
Parks and Wildlife can enforce.
well, we can go back and we can put both in there.
All right, so right now I got a motion second on the table for the trolley motor only.
Okay, I mean, we can table it and bring it back with the weight zone in there.
It's up to you.
I think that's what I want to do.
So you want to pull your motion?
Yep.
And you'll pull your second?
Yeah.
And you want to table it?
Yeah, we'll table it and bring it back with the weight
So-
zone in there.
Commissioner, let me throw a suggestion that I find another Eagle Scout that wants to help on an Eagle project.
Wow.
And they've been helping us do a couple of Eagle projects, have been doing some motor safety things, and we may be able to probably at some point, when you bring it back, would be to make all of Chambers County waters of Turtle Bio a no wake zone. Just the entire bio. Then it allows Parks and Wildlife, and they probably put a boat in there more than we do, because primarily we find ourselves in the bay and in the river more than we do the bio. And they're there to enforce the fishing regulations, so they find themselves in there a little bit more. So whatever we do create, we really do need to make sure it's something Parks and Wildlife can enforce. And I can definitely have the guys start spending a little some time in there, but like I said, I sure got to be careful about airboats, because we do have people that launch airboats there, and you can idle an airboat without creating a big wake, and they can get out to the lake in an airboat. So just a thought. Like I say, the last thing I want to do is put any kind of a burden on the boaters, but I definitely want to protect the homeowners and stuff, people that live around there, and especially protect the kayakers.
Turtle Bio is not the only one, Judge.
Yeah, I know this.
We have Orchard Bio, we have East Bay Bio, there's
There's
multiple.
bios all over this county.
That's right, that there's kayakers you see that come through all the time. And
All right,
they're
so
doing
here's my suggestion. Commissioner Gordon, Ashley, and Sheriff get together and put something together, bring back to court.
No problem. Because I'd like to include Bobby and Hector in
Yes.
that conversation.
All right, sounds good. We're gonna table that one.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you, sir. We'll go back to Road and Bridge, 3.2, discuss and consider cost increases in road material.
Thank you, Court. Thank you, Judge. So this is just really an FYI of how the escalations that really everybody is seeing during this day and age is affecting road and bridge materials, and just for y'all to take in consideration as we move forward.
So no action, it's just FYI.
No, so you know that, of course, our fuel is based on a market value, so many cents above a market value. So that's just increasing also. But the main thing was, I think, what did Corey, 15% increase in June the 1st on the material?
That's pretty close, yes. And as we're looking at fuel and everything else, we're accepting some price increases and kind of acknowledging that every quarter that we're going to go back and look at it, and hopefully at some point it goes down. I don't know that that's actually going to occur, but just that we would, that we're gonna look at it as it comes through
I heard
quarterly.
the price of lumber is going down, so maybe some of this other go down too. All right,
That'd be awesome.
50% effective July the 1st.
Is it July the 1st? Okay.
And just a kudos to purchasing also, is they working with Road and Bridge and I'm sure with the other departments on these same issues. So thank you,
Well,
George.
Yeah, I've spoken with numerous other departments and as well as auditing as well. I mean, sheriff department's probably gonna be 20,000 plus over and EMS as well. And I've got a list of all the fire departments. Some of them's gonna be close to $10,000 over the line item on fuel. So that's something we're gonna have to address possibly before the end of the year.
Okay, thank you, sir. All right, 3.3, discuss, consider requesting TxDOT to designate a portion of FM 3180 right away, the jug handle south of I-10, as surplus to be provided back to the county, Corey.
So thank you. This is, as everybody is painfully aware, the I-10 3180 project has lingered on and on and on. This 3180 was originally county right away. Before the project began, we quit claimed over the that 3180 right away so that TxDOT could build that project. As it progressed, the stuff to the north, we entered into an agreement and allowed City of Mont Bellevue, sorry, to make a similar request to TxDOT for the jug handles to the north. And I believe that they have just gone through that process in the last few weeks. And so the time is right for the county to go ahead and make the same request for the sections of the remainder property there on the south side. We need to work with TxDOT to determine what they feel is appropriate of what they would need for continued maintenance and operation of the much narrower intersection there. And so that we can have the remainder portion designated as surplus and go ahead and take that over.
Okay, motion.
So move.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Combs, second by Commissioner Tice. Any questions?
Yes.
Yes.
Corey, who's going to do the surveying for that? Will TxDOT do that or what? How, or we go out first a survey at their request?
I believe the county will have to do that, Bobby, and I would like you to lead that effort as soon as I get that figured out with TxDOT.
Yeah, you guys need to work with TxDOT.
Okay.
On those details.
We can.
All right, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 3.4, discuss and consider requesting TxDOT to designate a portion of FM 565 right away on the S curve as surplus to be provided back to the county, Corey.
Okay, thank you, Court. And so this is a similar situation. Everybody is aware of the 565 project down there between 99 and 1405. The S curve been in there for many, many, many years as that project took forever to get to a construction process. I see Billy grinning. It was painful, but as that new pavement is in place, the old S curve is there and can be designated as surplus. We're working with industry in that area as to a plan and with TxDOT on a plan to utilize that for improved traffic flow. But one of the first steps there also is for us to be able to make an official request to TxDOT to surplus that old right away back to the county.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Combs, second by Commissioner Hammond. Any questions? No, I started working on this project when I first became commissioner. So you think 1409 took a long time?
40 years.
Those in favor? Yeah, 100 years ago.
Hey, Judge Bobby McCullough and I surveyed this in the 86, 87.
3.6, approve going out for RFQs for geotechnical services and construction lab testing.
Okay, so this, Bobby and I have been in discussion on going out for services and agree that some potential engineering judgment could be necessary in some of the soil work that we have coming up for the county and for road and bridge, needing those services. So for that, an RFQ would be required. So we're going to go ahead and make that service if you all agree.
Motion by Commissioner Gore, second by Commissioner Tice. Any questions? Those in favor? Opposed, motion carries. Corey, I think that's all you have.
All right, thank you. I'll let Bobby take over the consent when y'all get to it.
All right, appreciate it.
Thank you, Corey.
All right, back to the top. 1.1, discuss, consider tax collection report submitted by Purdue, Brandon Fielder Collins, and Mott LLP. Mike Darlow and T is here. Good morning.
Morning, Judge. Morning, Commissioners. Julie and I appreciate the opportunity to visit with you for a few minutes about our tax collection work and our court fines and fees. I provided you with all the normal pie charts and graphs like I do every time, just point out a few highlights and of course answer any questions that y'all may have. When we prepared this report for you, we had 873,000 of unpaid taxes up through and including the 2020 tax year. On the first graph showing you the account breakdown chart, a couple things that I want to mention on it. One is our litigation percentage, which represents over almost 40% of the roll. Included in that is a case we have against a company called Dark Ruby that is 50 mineral accounts. It's pipeline, working interest in the bay, real estate. For those of you that have been on the court for a while, this used to be known as Galveston Bay Operating, and it went through a bankruptcy. And before it owned it, another company had it and went into bankruptcy. Dark Ruby bought it in 2019. We got all the taxes paid through 2019. And shockingly, they didn't pay the 2020s. They haven't paid the 2021s. And they've been in a dispute now with the Railroad Commission for not quite a year on one, whether or not they actually acquired title to it, even though they paid $500,000 in the last bankruptcy case to buy these interests. They are now saying, well, we didn't really buy it. And they're in a big fight with the Railroad Commission over some bond money that the Railroad Commission wants in order to let them go forward. Long story short, coincidentally, yesterday we had a call with their lawyers. We've sued Galveston Bay, the prior owner, Dark Ruby, the current owner. And I was hopeful that the call was going to be, well, we want to pay this. Oil and gas prices are going up. Everything's great. We're going to keep reworking the wells. Not quite. The odds are that they are going to walk away from it. We're going to take our judgment, and then we'll be visiting even before then with the Railroad Commission over what their ultimate goal is. If they cancel the leases, then our liens on the on all the working interests basically go away, and it basically becomes uncollectible. Then they'll release it out eventually, the state, to somebody else, and that'll create a new account in a new tax year. Not a great scenario for us, but we do have the real estate. We have pipelines. We've got a variety of companies that we're going to try to talk to see if there's interest. Just to give you a flavor, while the county is only owed 40+ thousand in base tax, when you add in, there's part of this property is in Barbara Sill School, part of the Anahuac School. When you add everybody in with all the taxes and penalties and interest, you're talking about $400,000 that's outstanding right now. And so we're working on it very diligently. We've got it set for trial in June. And hopefully we'll, again, either have a resolution or then we'll look at potentially selling it. What we will not do at the end of the day is let any of that property get struck off in the name of the county. So we can take it all the way up to the moment of the sale. And if somebody's there at the time we have to sell it and they want to raise their hand and buy it, great. If not, we just pull it right down and then we'll move on and see where it goes from there. So
Can I make a comment on that real quick?
absolutely.
That entity that you're talking about, all of them, we've had some pretty shady operators operating that system as long as I can remember. And quite frankly, I'd love to see it shut down.
Well, when the last storm last year, a couple of the boats sank and there was some oil discharge and the Railroad Commission had to go out there and help. They got it raised and cleaned up. And then because there was some oil that had gathered that they hadn't sold yet, they went to sell it, the oil. And unfortunately, there wasn't any money to pay any of the taxes. All the money went to reimburse the state for the cleanup costs, about 70 some odd thousand dollars.
That's my point exactly.
Right. And so the guy that's the underlying owner is out of California. And I understand what you're saying, Commissioner, and this has been a problem. So I just wanted to bring it to the court's attention because it is a driver on part of our delinquent roll.
Yeah, if you got a good operator out there, things will be different, but we haven't had good.
We haven't had a good operator.
They almost had a deal where all the Dark Ruby would have to do is put up $1 million bond. Versus originally the state wanted them to put up a $7 million bond. But in a variety of pleadings that were filed in the bankruptcy case, the attitude that Dark Ruby exhibited toward the state made the state basically say, I don't think we're going to give you that deal anymore. We want that 7 million. And so that's, I think, partially because of the experience that they had and that what you're mentioning, Commissioner, with them. So that's a quick update on that particular account. The other thing I'll mention on the first graphic is our bankruptcy. And the reason I pointed out bankruptcy and part pay, we've only got $6,000 out of the total delinquent roll that's involved in active bankruptcy cases. I think that's a positive. It shows a strong economic activity in the county. So I'll point that out to you. Moving on, I'll skip the second pie chart. I'll go to the third one, which is a by year chart, and it shows you the taxes owed by year and what it represents to the total. You can see the largest single year, of course, is 2020. And then I've given you graphs showing historical collections from 2015 forward. And I can go back through any of those, but if you don't mind, Judge, I'll just move you right along to the 2020 year. I knew you wouldn't object. So last July, we started with $650,000 of unpaid 2020 taxes. The county collected up through that date virtually 99% of the 2020 taxes. So this $650,000 that's due represents just a tad over 1% of your total levy. So not a ton of money relative to what you're taxing. And through March of 2022, so not quite about 9 months of the collection cycle, we're at 68% collected of that 1%. So a real good, strong collection percentage going on. And you can see in the prior year graphs where we are in terms of first year, second year, and subsequent year collections, all quite strong in our collections for the county. The other thing I'll mention before I get to my fine and fee report, this month we had tax sales beginning of April. A couple properties sold, a couple got struck off, and several got paid before the sale. So good, strong, again, activity, pointing out, which you all know, that there's a lot of activity and interest in property in the county. We had a tax docket earlier this month. We've got another one in May and another one in June. And historically, all of the cases that we have done in the county have always been in the 253rd. And now Judge Kane is going to do tax dockets too. So we're going to have tax cases with both Judge McDonald and Judge Kane moving forward. That's a quick update on the tax portion of our report. I'll be happy to, if you don't mind, Judge, I'll roll right into our court fine and fee.
Yes, sir.
Update for you. So 10,000 people in the county and that don't live in the county got a red notice like this late February, early March. You used to know this as a warrant roundup program that the state helped sponsor. It's been renamed as a case resolution program, a gentler, nicer way to say warrant roundup. Don't ask me, not my decision. But we sent these out to a lot of people. We got a lot of activity on that. I've provided you historical collections for each of the JP courts. You can see on that page how much we've been turned over, how much has been collected in cash and non-cash, aggregate resolution of that, how many addresses we've corrected, letters mailed, phone contacts. We're in the middle of rolling out now a new program where we're going to do a lot more emailing to people, and we're working on a texting program to get messages out. You know, the statistics will tell you that a letter only gets you so far. A text, the odds of people responding, looking at their phone and replying to a text increase our opportunity to make contact with somebody that owes you money and get them to pay. So we're hoping that this summer we're going to have that ready to go. And then finally, I've given you 3 different maps for Judge Cryer's court, just giving you a sense of the zip codes where the majority of accounts reside. The first two give you by top 10 accounts by zip code and by bad address by zip code. And the last, which is the one I like the most, which is the all accounts, shows you that all across the country, coast to coast, people have gone through his precinct, gotten a ticket, still owe him money. And our job is to get them to come in and take care of their business. So you can see the inherent challenge that we have. So that's a quick update. Judge, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you or any members of the court may have for Ophelia and I on all the activity that we're doing on behalf of the county.
Any questions?
Good job, keep it up.
Yeah, looks good. All right, I'll entertain a motion to,
Second.
motion by Commissioner Tynes, second by Commissioner Gordon, accept the report, tax collection report from Purdue. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 1.2, discuss, consider approving renewal contingent fee contract with Purdue, Brandon, Fielder, Collins, and Mott pursuant to section 6.30 of the tax code. Said contract being for the collection of delinquent government receivables owed to Chambers County. And notice of said contracts posted with agenda in accordance with section 2254 of the government code. Mike.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Gore, second by Commissioner Combs. Any questions? Mike, anything else?
Thank you.
All right, those in favor? Opposed, motion carries. Good job, Mike.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
We're gonna skip out and go collect you some money.
Okay,
There you go. Thank you.
right.
Bye.
All right, so let's go. Stay on track. What about that? Economic, no, is BJ here?
Yes, it was, yeah.
BJ, good morning. All right, 5.1, discuss, consider hotel occupancy fund application, amount of 2,500 by the Windy Stoll Positive Action Committee, create a mural in Gregory Park. Sam out there. You gonna take it,
Yeah, she's at.
Commissioner Gore? They're asking for 2,500. And it qualifies.
This was on their last court, we tabled it, right?
Yeah, but we didn't have a.
No record. They do now.
I'll make a motion to approve, approve it, Judge.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Gore, second by Commissioner Combs. Questions?
When all this started, there was gonna be no cost to the county,
Yeah. Call that.
and now we're giving them money to do it.
Right, get a motion second. Those in favor? Opposed?
No,
Motion carries 1 nay, Commissioner Hammond. All right, BJ. 5.2, public hearing 10 a.m. regarding the proposed amendment and adoption of guidelines and criteria governing chapter 312, tax abatement agreement by Chambers County. It's now 10:16 a.m. We will recess regular session and go into public hearing at this time. BJ.
Thank you, Judge, Commissioners. There was an agenda item on last court that spoke to requirements associated with the Greenbelt buffer. I think that was approved earlier today.
It was.
And so that requirement necessitated a change in guidelines. And so what you have before you are proposed edits in the resolution for approving the tax abatement guidelines. Statute requires that anytime the policy changes that there's a public hearing that has to be conducted so as to get public comments related to potential policy changes that we're doing today. So the floor is open for comments associated with any potential changes that's been submitted to the court.
All right, any public comments? We're on a public hearing. Yes, ma'am, you'll have to come to the podium. And then you'll have to fill out a form, but you can go ahead and take the question.
Okay, Gloria Romer, the Seabury speaking. The question is that last Commissioners Court, we passed that good neighbor policy regarding tax abatements. Does this have anything to do with that? I mean, are those new policies going to be implemented in these potential tax abatement agreements?
Yes.
They will be?
Yes.
Okay, so so the good neighbor policy thing was effective immediately as of 2 weeks ago.
Well, if it's part of this, then it has to go through this public hearing process. If it's gonna be part of the guidelines, so.
So it will be effective now with these that we're talking about.
When we revise, if we approve this, yes, it will change our policy.
Okay,
The
thank
other
you.
one was a resolution. and
Yes,
Stated we would change the policy.
yes. Okay, so this will change the policies. Okay, thank you. And I will go fill out. a
Thank
form.
you. All right, BJ, do you understand that? You agree?
Yes, Commissioners, and the edits that are put before you, I guess, embody the good neighbor policy.
Okay. All right, any other public comments?
No, as well as this, as well as the green space deal earlier, will be posted on our website. We need to make sure that's done.
Okay. I see you over there. No. Oh, Kyle's up there. Well, that was a clerk for years. You don't look much like a clerk. Thank goodness. All right, so what Commissioner Gore said, we need to make sure this gets put on the website, these changes. Nothing else on the public hearing. We're adjourned at 10:19 a.m. and back in the regular session of Commissioners Court. 5.3, discuss and consider resolution adopting amended guidelines and criteria governing chapter 312, tax abatement agreements by Chambers County. BJ.
Thank you, Judge and Commissioners. As noted, this resolution will effectuate changes and approve changes to the amended guidelines. There's the fifth recital in the for the resolution has been edited to reflect the good neighbors policy and the greenbelt requirements. And I'm just going to read directly that whereas tax incentives should not be used to attract those industries that have demonstrated a lack of commitment to protecting the environment, but should be used to encourage projects designed to protect the environment, provide adequate buffer zones, and holistically protect the safety and quality of life of Chambers County residents. That's the intent that's there. I mean, the resolution noted specifically that buffer zones, homes, community, and on the roads, that's language that the court can decide to incorporate. I just tried to be economic in the language that was put forth in the resolution. A couple of other edits in the resolution reflect that the last time, most recent occasion that the court approved, chose to participate in chapter 312 tax abatements was November 23rd of 2021. And as of today, if in fact the proposed changes are approved, that the new effective date for participating in chapter 312 would be today's date, April 26th of 2022. On page 7 of the existing guidelines, under section 4 related to public hearings associated with designated reinvestment zones, the proposed changes would be under item B, that in order to enter into a tax abatement or incentives agreement, the eligible jurisdiction, which in this case is the county, must find that the terms of the proposed agreement, the subject property, and the reinvestment zone meet these guidelines and criteria consistent with section 312.202 of the tax code. In section 312.202, there are specific requirements or elements that are related to reinvestment zones, so as to speak to safety and environment already. So that's already been contemplated as part of the statute. And then item 2 under B, it's a reiteration of the recital I mentioned earlier that the planned use of the property will not constitute a hazard to public safety, health, or morals. And these are specific language in chapter 312 and provide adequate buffer zones to, again, holistically protect the quality of life for Chambers County residents. So those are the proposed changes that will be embodied in the amended guidelines.
Yeah, I like the fact that we've added those to our tax abatements. BJ, could you just hit the highlights of the resolution? You know, number one, the reason we do tax abatement is creation and retention of jobs. Just kind of hit the highlights of those.
Certainly. Again, just as you mentioned, Judge, the creation and retention of job opportunities in the county. New jobs and investment will benefit the area economy, provide needed opportunities, strengthen the real estate market, and generate tax revenue to support local services. There's a competitive aspect that the county must compete with other national and international localities. They're currently offering tax inducements to attract jobs in their areas. That the incentives offered in Chambers County would be strictly limited to an application to those new and existing industries that bring new capital investment to the community. In my report that I hope to give here shortly, we can speak to new and existing industries. I think the strategy that the the county has adopted over the last several years for business retention and expansion to expand or provide an environment for expansion for industries that are currently here has been substantially effective. And then other recitals as mentioned before, respect the greenbelt that's noted there. And then the enabling legislation that allows for this was adopted September of 1987.
All right, any questions?
Yeah, just a little discussion on it. On the on the one that BJ read a while ago, you know, and he took from our resolution, he took the words pretty much quoted them. He inserted the word holistically, which I have to admit, I had to look that definition up to make sure I understood what it meant. You know, I'm not the intellect BJ is.
Just trying to
But
wrap around. Yeah.
no, it is. It's all inclusive. It's a wrap around, and it does. But in doing that, you know, like you said, he cleaned it up and shortened it up a little bit. And he removed the last part that where I said of Chambers County residents, he put a period after residents. And I had in here in their homes, community, and on the roads. And I understand that the word holistically automatically makes that inclusive. It does. I mean, it would be not just that, but everywhere. So originally, you know, I thought, well, I want to go back and add in their homes, community, and on the roads, because I've been working quite a bit with different developers and builders and, you know, new businesses coming in with traffic and how they access where they put the roads, you know, the drives going out. You know, Corey mentioned earlier about the the S-curve that we're trying to work with industry on and using that abandoned right of way as a wraparound and a way to turn. So, I mean, but this is the court decision, and I just want to hear from the others on this court, you know, what you think about leaving the brief and revisions that BJ had made, or going back and adding the in their homes, community, and on the roads to that.
Holistically covered.
It does. I agree.
I'm good with it.
I'm good with it.
I'll move for approval.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Combs, second by Commissioner Tice. Any other questions?
Just comment, I want to thank Billy for all his work he's done on this, along with BJ and everybody else involved, so. I know he's got a lot of hours in this, and it's truly appreciated by all.
It is. I concur with Commissioner Hammond. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys.
All right, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries 5-4. Discuss and consider Baytown West Chambers County Economic Development Foundation Economic Development Program Report. PJ.
Thank you, Judge. There's a presentation I'd like to zip through. It's several slides. I also have hard copies to hand out if you like those. Do you have a clicker or something? Okay, very good.
You can come get it, BJ. Yes, yes, ma'am. BJ, while you're there, we turn that screen a little bit, but okay.
And while I'm thinking about it, I got a call from someone that asked if we would mind wiping our lens off on our camera. It's a little foggy.
That's not the camera.
Is that one up there?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not the
You just
camera.
get
I forgot about the
glare off.
It's glare.
On ball heads.
What?
Okay, Judge, Commissioners, again, last time we tried to do this was virtual, and I took advantage of the opportunity. And so I tried to minimize the number of slides that I'm gonna kind of zip through if you'd like. Our contract requires us to give an update to the court periodically associated with the efficacy of the the effectiveness of the economic development programs the counties adopted some years ago. So I'm trying to do that today. So the overviews I'll present today, just talk briefly about the foundation and its relationship with the county, talk about our program of work, and then delve deeply into the economic development philosophy of the county, kind of a review of history, economic development metrics and trends, and then answer any questions that you may have.
BJ, there's a couple light switches. I think the first two this way. That'll help you. No, you can leave that one on, you still see. All right, there you go.
Very good. So the mission and purpose of the Economic Development Foundation since 1986 has been to spur and foster economic growth. We've had a relationship with Chambers County since inception. Obviously, the nature of the name of our organization, the Baytown West Chambers County Economic Development Foundation, speaks to that. We have our strategic partners that are noted here. We have got economic development contracts with Chambers County, City of Baytown, Chambers County Improvement Districts 1 and 2, Port of Houston, and then industry. Our work is focused on driving this development cycle. It's fairly obvious. Employment growth begets residential growth and population growth, which begets sales tax and retail development. Those revenues can then be deployed within an economy to improve amenities and the like. And so this has been very active over the last several years, particularly coincident with the reemergence of the petrochemical industry associated with shale gas. This is our program of work, sort of a laundry list of activities that our organization and lots of economic development organizations conduct. And so we've been using this to kind of illustrate some of the activities for all of our strategic partners in our contracts. This is our mainstay activity, however, facilitating site selection processes, and when we're competing for projects and on behalf of the county and all of our stakeholders. So this funnel sort of speaks to the process of site selection. Site selection is not a process of election, it is a process of elimination. So our efforts are really focused on looking at the requirements when RFPs or requests for information, we receive them from the governor's office, regional economic development organizations like the Greater Houston Partnership and others. We try to at least present our service area, which encompasses all of Chambers County, Baytown proper, and certain unincorporated areas of Harris County in the best light. And so as we go through the criteria and the funnel, ideally, we'd like to present and address all of the elements that are noted on the right-hand side there and provide information in that regard. So for 2021, it's a very busy year, despite COVID coming out of it. It's one of our busiest years. We we responded to 394 verifiable requests for information. As I noted, some of these requests for information are RFIs, as they're known, come from direct contacts, walk-ins, people contacting our office, the Governor's Office of Economic Development and Tourism, and regional allies like the Greater Houston Partnership. We hosted 30 site visits last year, very active, some virtual, some physical. Not surprisingly, manufacturing is a mainstay areas of interest. Petrochemical industry continues to be of interest. Advanced manufacturing, alternative energy is an emerging sector. Beverage bottling, we've got some substantial, well, at least one substantial project that's going vertical in the county, and others that are inquiring. This whole idea of circular manufacturing associated with plastics is emerging in a big way. Personal protective equipment was a huge area. I mean, we really were inundated with a number of projects that were seeking to take advantage of the Department of Defense funding to produce nitrile gloves and other PPE because of COVID. And then lastly, logistics and distribution is a significant area that is growing in the county. This slide's kind of hard to read, but it illustrates projects that have been presented before court in some form or fashion for fiscal years 2021, 21, 22, and then 22, 23. Cold storage, plastic express, floor and decor, just a laundry list of potential projects. The fractionation facilities, last at the bottom page where you see Lone Star, NGL, frac 7 and 8, and then frac for Targa 7 and 8 have come online during that time period and are reemerging. That sector was impacted by COVID. A number of projects in the midstream sector were either delayed but are reemerging here recently because of two things. The market dynamics have changed. The recovery has been substantial, and then the sunset of the Chapter 313 value limitation incentive, which occurs in December of this year, has been really motivating companies to take advantage of that structure.
Which, explain what a 313 is, please.
Yes, chapter 313 value limitation allows school districts to limit the maintenance and operations segment or portion of their tax at a certain threshold. In our area, the Barbasol ISD has a lion's share of chapter 313 agreements. And their minimum threshold for investment is $80 million, and Goose Creek School District is at $100 million. So essentially, the M&O portion of the school district tax is limited at that, hence the value limitation term for a number of years, typically 10 years. And then savings above that or value above that, constitutes significant tax savings for a project. And I'll speak to this integrated model that has made this area very competitive for that very reason. So just to highlight some of that CapEx at the bottom, $4.3 billion does not reflect, this is simply a characterization of all the value that's going vertical in our service area and the number of jobs, 1,154 jobs. Lots of job creation is going to result as part of the projects and then the commitment contributions that the county's made with respect to economic development. So today's report is part of our contract. Item number 7 under our contract is to provide an annual reporting detailing the effectiveness of the economic development program that we steward on behalf of the county, the incentive philosophy of the county, and then any sort of continuous improvement activities that we've undertaken on behalf of the county related to the economic development program. So this is a brief history or timeline. The county's first Chapter 312 agreement was with the Home Depot Distribution Center and then the Cedar Crossing Industrial Park, followed closely by kind of a landmark deal, the Walmart Distribution Centers, a 4+ million square foot distribution center projects that emerged in Cedar Crossing, which involved Chambers County, City of Baytown, the General Land Office, sort of a really very creative deal that Judge Sylvia in court at that time, and Mike Shields, who was the executive director of the foundation up until January of this year, structured a deal that really put Chambers County on the map related to supply chain and logistics and distribution. The first Chapter 381 agreement that the county entered into was for a competitive project. It was the Borsum and Essman project. There were 3 sites competing for the project, Chambers County and the Cedar Crossing Industrial Park, now Cedar Port, Port Catoosa in Oklahoma, and there was a site in Caddo Parish, Louisiana that was competing for that project. And so we did some research, actually asked Locke Lord to make a presentation to the court at that time, talking about the Chapter 381 statute that had been on the books for quite some time, but the court, the county had not undertaken it. And so it was we were actually complimentary in that regard to bring the concept of 381. The statute is very flexible, and the county's been using the flexibility of 381 in a number of ways, which we'll talk about here shortly. And then 2014, there was a formal economic development policy or 381 policy that was adopted by the court and has been updated a few times. It will be updated subsequent to the adoption of the changes associated with greenbelts. That same characterization is going to be included in the 381 policy. So since 2014 to now, the economic development program has been deployed. We've been able to integrate both Chapter 312 and Chapter 381 in a meaningful way to affect economic development, enter into agreements that have been beneficial to the county, both short-term and long-term, and then with the taxpayers who have been entering into these agreements. So there are a number of benefits. People ask, why abate, and they're just listed here. There's some seem fairly obvious and some do not. But the idea that's underlined right there, that the retention and development of existing businesses truly has been the mainstay focus of the county's economic development focus because of the emergence of 2 sectors, the petrochemical sector, particularly in the midstream sector, and then the logistics and distribution. So there are 5 reasons that are noted here that are fairly straightforward. They reduce unemployment, new jobs or new businesses create new jobs, if you will, and also retain jobs. Business retention and employment retention is key. They strengthen other businesses. If you recall, the last several years, we've been trying to illustrate in our recommendations to the court consideration for potential projects, the economic impact of projects as they relate to job creation in the county. And so their characterizations, they're not, they're specific to the extent that you're measurable, but they give some indication of the magnitude of impact of having certain jobs and these jobs coming into the county. The third bullet, increasing the tax revenue. These are not discrete one-time investments. Yes, if in fact the county is incentivizing projects or abating taxes, these are not monuments they're going to create, they're going to operate, they're going to employ, they're going to create inventory, but then once they roll back onto the rolls, they continue to add revenue to the tax base. Fourth bullet, tax receipts continue to grow long-term. It's the point I just made. And then lastly, they provide a flexible economic development tool to compete for projects. This is a global and competitive environment. For each one of these categories, we can give specific examples of Chambers County competing globally. We compete routinely against states along the Gulf Coast, particularly Louisiana, and the industrial tax exemption program that they have, which abates carte blanche 80% of all taxes associated with the project up to 10 years. Counties, we routinely compete against Waller County, Montgomery County, Brazoria County. One of the PPE projects that I was mentioning is chosen Brazoria County. It was the Super Max glove manufacturing. Had some discussions, a lot of work in that regard, and thought that Cedar Port was going to be selected as a site, but they ultimately went to Brazoria County for two reasons. The Chapter 313 value limitation threshold was lower than the 80 million in the Barboursville ISD, and then the county provided them with a very substantial tax abatement, and that $450+ million project. And then lastly, countries. If you recall, the MDI project Covestro was competing for and had landed prior to them deciding to squat prior to squat, that's a rough term, delay the project to delay the project pre-COVID. They were going through some contemplation and or reemerge, and that competitive project is reemerged, and the Baytown site is competing against China for the $1.9 billion project. So this is the business retention and expansion philosophy that it really has been manifested. I had the opportunity to co-author an article with Judge Sylvia back in 2018 in preparation for advocating for the extension or the renewal of Chapter 312 and 313 in the 2019 session. And Judge Sylvia, this is a quote from Judge Sylvia, that the Commissioners Court has worked with key parties, the Barboursville ISD, the Goose Creek ISD, the improvement districts, and the like in the city of Mount Bellevue to take advantage of a special time in the petrochemical industry. I mean, really what emerged in between 2012 and 2020 has been significantly exceptional. And it was all related to the reemergence of shale gas, the ability to essentially go to a dry process to crack ethane to make ethylene, which is then converted into polyethylene, fundamentally changed the petrochemical industry. So the underlying comment there is that to promote investment and expand capacity during the special period has really, provided the basis for the agreements that the county has entered into over the last decade. So this integrated model that I mentioned earlier, it's a combination of things. The court is not doing things discreetly, particularly for the large midstream projects. The ISD Chapter 313 value limitation, that's Barboursville ISD and Goose Creek, but largely Barboursville ISD. The city of Mount Bellevue has entered into a number of Chapter 312 and Chapter 80 agreements to incentivize all the fractionators or fractionation capacity in Mount Bellevue. The city of Baytown has the ability to enter into industrial district agreements in their ETJ. And then lastly, Chambers County has been using Chapter 312 and 381 very effectively to incentivize projects. And so it's an integrated model that has worked nicely. Unfortunately, 313 is sunsetting in this year. However, there are already efforts underway to look at what the next iteration of 313 is going to be, because that's Texas's mainstay tax incentive. And so it's something I think the legislature has to be rational to get past some of the challenges associated with the inability to evenly distribute the benefits of 313 across the state and develop a new model that would allow for the same types of incentivization. So the Representative Murphy last session developed a bill that had some components that were very appealing. I would expect that he's going to come back with that. And I think that the Lieutenant Governor has already tapped someone who's a tax expert to start looking at developing some proposals so that when they hit the ground running, when the legislative session starts, that 313 would be a primary focus when it comes to economic development incentives. So this is a roster of the 2021 agreements that are illustrated in the annual report for Chambers County Appraisal District. These are the sectors that are represented: upstream, midstream, downstream. Not surprisingly, all represented in this county, but the midstream sector really has the lion's share, where you have midstream operators, Enterprise, Targa, Lone Star, One Oak have multiple agreements with the county. Logistics and distribution, as I mentioned before, has really emerged, particularly given the end product or the output of all these expansions. We have Chambers County is home to two of the largest plastics distributors in the world in the county, and then others are operating, Plastic Express, PPV, and others. Cold storage is another sector that is emerging post-COVID or coincident with COVID. It's another signifier of growth. Right now, there are at least 2 projects that are going vertical in the county, and additional being contemplated. So it's another sector that's emerging in the area.
Before you leave there, will you explain for those who may not know, upstream, midstream, and downstream?
Yes, I'm sorry. The upstream sector is essentially the downhole operations, the exploration and extraction of oil and gas or NGLs. Midstream is the transfer of those products and then subsequent modification through fractionation of some sort. And then downstream is the transformation or manipulation of molecules into an end product. So upstream, you've got crude or NGLs. NGLs transferred via pipelines, significant pipelines, and stored in the caverns, if you will, in the Mount Belvieu area, fractionated into various natural gas liquids. Downstream is taking one of those NGLs, if you will, the ethane that is derived from that, cracking it and making ethylene, and then subsequently changing it into polyethylene, which is plastic. So that's the distinction.
No, that's good. Thank you. Because I know there's some that don't understand.
No, I understand. No, I understand. So what is the effect of all this? So we've talked about the philosophy and so forth. And before I go into this next phase, do any of you have any questions or anything? Good. I'm trying to be brief. It takes some time, but
You're good.
so this is a roll-on chart of value that is going to be rolling on to a lot of the agreements that the court currently has. And this was presented last year during our annual report virtually. I changed it when the valuations for 2021 came in, because some of the valuations came in lower for various reasons. But I've gone back to it. You're in the magnitude of about $10 billion that's going to roll back onto the rolls, over the next decade, from 2021 to 31, because there were special circumstances that impacted valuations, particularly in the midstream sector. So this is what the incentive investments that the county has made under these agreements, and this is what it looks like. There is a time period that 2021, 22, 23, 24 somewhat, where there some of the projects that were in the queue for consideration pre-COVID would have helped flatten that impact, but they got canceled, but they're reemerging, and so there may be some opportunity to change what this modulus looks like. This is the revenue that can be derived or anticipated as part of this roll-on. So you've got magnitude over $10 billion rolling on cumulatively during that same time period, and then this is the holding the tax rate flat or constant over the same time period. This is a modulus of what the curve of revenues looks like at the same period. So when I think that Nathan Watkins with Integrated Consulting is doing some analysis, and we've been providing support in that regard, when he makes comments about $175 million of capacity, a lot of that is being a part of this, and it's not that you got abatements, but the county's been deriving significant payment in lieu of taxes along the way that equates anywhere from 40 to 44%. There's some nuances associated with some of these agreements, particularly the large ones. When you get into them, when you look at the year-to-date abatement, some of them have inverted. The philosophy for the court had been a 60% abatement. Some of them were based upon that, particularly those agreements that had stipulated values associated with their 313 applications. They stipulate what they thought the valuation models were, and that was a rational basis for negotiating these. However, valuations are valuations. They're not, exact. And so because of that, some of the agreements have an inverted percentage that the county is benefiting to 60% and the taxpayer is deriving 40%. Particularly the net present value of some of the upfront cash payments that the county has received, paradoxically, because of the lower valuation associated with COVID, makes those dollars even more valuable in retrospect. So it's just one of those situations where we continue to try to provide the court with some insight, and then the citizens as well, with respect to the impacts of these investments. Development begets development. This is some data from the comptroller's website with respect to gross sales in the county. Now, in the county, in Chambers County, with a population of 46,000, 46,000, there are gross sales that are tabulated. These are all accessible on the comptroller's website, over $3 billion a year. I mean, that's a lot of activity in a small county, like this. And so this is one of the beneficiaries that's been looking and working with Aaron in his prior role as assistant budget officer and like trying to understand the health services sales tax impact in the county. These are data that date back to early 2000s. But note, and this is up to the second quarter of 2021, the estimates were that the county was going to derive $9.5 million from a half-cent sales tax. That is equivalent to $1.2 billion in actual sales and sales allocation. So, the benefit of having activity in the county, let's see, you've got gross sales and then resultant sales tax that the county derives from that. So these are ancillary benefits that are derived from economic activity in the county. Other benefits, we are starting to develop an understanding of supply chain impacts, consumption within the county associated with growth in various sectors. And so these are data related to transportation and warehousing projects in the county. And the source for this is from Jobs EQ, Chamorro. It's a platform that we have. And these are data as of the third quarter of 21. In this sector, the transportation and warehousing purchases sector is a growing sector in the county. Purchases from U.S. firms in total are $309 million. Of that, purchases in Chambers County was $51 million. Purchases outside of the county result in 258. So it's 17% of all the purchases associated with this sector are made in Chambers County. Likewise, in the chemical manufacturing area, purchases from U.S. firms in total, again, this is as of Q3 of 21, $2.7 billion. Purchases in the county over $1 billion. And that's 37% of that total purchases that are made in that sector. And when you create the report, obviously you've seen some of these reports, they can be 40+ pages. I mean, they're purchasing all throughout, the economy. So these are significant benefits related to growth. Other complementary benefits associated with the economic development program. Some of these agreements that funded pipeline relocations for FM 1409, right-of-way acquisition of FM 1409, the pending McLeod Park sale, White's Park covered arena, infrastructure contributions have been built in, as part of these agreements to the tune of several $1 million. The county adopted policy for the community impact program contribution that is deriving or generate 1.5% of the derived derived tax savings for some of these agreements over term. I think we did some analysis late last year that those agreements, as it stands right now, are going to generate almost $2 million in contributions that the county can use at their discretion. And then lastly, residential development. People are moving into the county. There's in-migration, residential development is emerging in Anahuac and other areas. So this is an overview of business growth over several years. You can see the upward trend. These are jobs, not jobs, but businesses that are currently operating and have growth developed over the time period that's noted here from 2010 to 2020. So GDP for 2020, when we think about gross domestic product, it's sort of a confusing concept that just illustrated, it's a useful metric for illustrating output, consumption, sales, labor, and the like in the county. In 2020, $3.04 billion. The 13-year average, ups and downs, is 7.2% year over year. And so when we look at the three for 2020, and if we were to derive a per capita measurement, that's over $74,000 for each resident in the county. I mean, that is competitive with certain nations, if you will. A lot of economic output, for a very small county, a lot of welfare. So not surprisingly, GDP contributions come from manufacturing, logistics, and distribution and warehousing. These are the categories. that are noted. This is another way to look at GDP. This is as of 4Q20. Holding everything constant, that's where the 100% concept comes as an index. The annual change with respect to GDP over time over the last 10 years in the county is 5.1%. That's complementary to the 7.2% that I noted earlier, but it's above the 3.4% for the nation. And then another metric is output per worker in a given area. In this case, it's Chambers County. It's $417,000 per worker who works in the county. That's almost double the national average. So it's significant economic input. These are categories. It's a tough chart to look at, but not surprisingly, manufacturing, logistics, or transportation, warehousing, and other areas are very active. And this is as of the third quarter of 2021. I know there's been some concern from the Commissioner's Court about jobs associated with tax abatements and the like. The county has established a threshold that, is just nominal. I mean, for many years, consistent with other locales and counties, cities and the like, establishing the need to retain or create 5-10 jobs. And that's been the case with the county for some time. The logic there is to not set up a clawback scenario where you have to go after a taxpayer for not meeting certain, thresholds and the like. So, job creation in the county has been robust. And one of the slides that I omitted this morning is illustrated for that. In 2010, there were 14,000 jobs in Chambers County. As of Q1 of 2022, there are 18,000 jobs. I mean, it's just a lot of people working in the county. But this is the labor force participation rate, as of the end of 2020. You'll note that for the labor force for 16 years and above, the labor force participation rate in Chambers County is 65.2%. The national average is 58%. But for the prime age labor force, which is 25 to 54, it's 80%. That is very high. And so the most recent data from the BLS and the BEA, the Bureau of Economic Analysis, shows a national average post-COVID at about 62%. So Chambers County is at 18% above, that. So, and the unemployment rate illustrates that as well. You'll note veterans do a good job, high participation rate, in the county with respect to veterans, particularly ages 18 to 64. Median household income in Chambers County is $91,000, and per capita income for every resident, it's almost $36,000 per capita. So county residents in general are doing well. These are employment trends. You'll see the dip associated with COVID, but the recovery has been very nice. You're up 4.3% in the county. This is as of the third quarter of 21. Unemployment has returned to pre-COVID levels, down to almost 4%. That's as of January of this year. Industry clusters, another hard chart to look, but you'll see the large bubbles. Not surprisingly, when you look at the bottom ledger, these are growth rates or estimates per year. Most of them are going to be at or above 2. A lot of growth in the petrochemical, chemical industry, coal, oil and gas, and the like. But there's a variable called the location quotient that speaks to competitive aspects of a given locale. Anything over 1.25 says that the area has competitive advantage over the nation and the region, and there's several that have that's above 1.25. So lastly, continuous improvement expectations as part of our contract. Some of the things that we've worked on, the courts adopted over the last couple of years. Foreign trade zones, formerly adopted an FTZ policy, and now have developed a payment in lieu of taxes agreement. For many years, the county did not enter into pilot agreements associated with FTZs, just simply to help motivate and activate economic development. But those two tools are now available. The courts adopted. The community impact program contribution that I alluded to earlier is in place. And then some recent changes in the Chapter 312 policy. Annual inventory minimums are expected now and stipulated in agreements. Economic impact analyses are going to be required as a matter of practice to make determinations as to what sort of terms these abatement agreements are going to be entered into. And then speculative development has been addressed in the policies. And I guess the most recent change now is the green belt requirement that's going to be reflected in the change in the policy.
Like the annual inventory minimum.
Yes. Yes. And just as another note, prior to COVID, the county was on pace for years 16, 17, 18, 19 and then 20 obviously was impacted by COVID, to reach or exceed $1 billion annually in inventory in warehouses in the county. And by all expectations, that's going to be the case when the numbers finally are going to be presented for 2022. So that is, again, another complementary benefit associated with this growing logistics and distribution.
Yeah, and then, people probably don't realize you're abating the building.
Right.
But you're not abating the inventory.
No.
So that inventory is still coming in.
That is correct.
It's still taxed.
It
fully.
is taxed fully at the same rate that ad valorem taxes. None of the taxing jurisdictions enter into Freeport tax exemptions here. Emerging trends, I'm almost finished. Emerging trends, reshoring, things, manufacturing coming back into the United States for domestic as compared to international. We noticed those trends. Some of the site visits that we hosted are from these locales. All these projects are currently active. South Korea, Belgium, India, Taiwan, Mexico. So again, our work in site selection continues, and reshoring and foreign direct investment interests are very robust. The circular economy associated with plastics, as I mentioned before, is very active. Ravago is taking a circular plastics project underway. They're currently expanding their number of projects in carbon capture in the service area that have been announced in ExxonMobil, Chevron, Phillips, and the like. So this is another emerging sector. And again, our work is to continue to work with the county to bring that intelligence to you for consideration, so as to not sub-optimize opportunities that present for competitive projects, and to ensure that this model, this integrated model, as it exists currently and then in the future, continues to be available to compete for projects. Then lastly, the continuum pre-COVID, upstream, midstream, and downstream has been stabilized and reemerging for consideration and development. And so the development cycle goes on. Ideally, we're going to drive the cycle continually for all of our stakeholders. I'd be glad to answer any questions.
You see the economy with the interest rate, everything that's going on, the economy slowing anything down?
Could be. I think that unfortunately there's a saying that the best cure for inflation is a recession, right? And so the counties, we've gone through recessions in the past, and so that one chart with respect to GDP and the like is there. However, there are some hedges against that, particularly with respect to the petrochemical industry and some of the products that are being produced in that area. And then consumption. I mean, people will consume. There's a paradox, particularly with respect to food. And when we think about cold storage, that is an emerging sector, as well. Intake from the port, and then, consumer products and the like. Retail, e-commerce, all those areas have emerged in a significant way. Article is a furniture company that's going vertical in Cedar Port. The Safa Bay is another e-commerce provider. Webstron is another e-commerce provider. And we're just developing a sensibility and awareness of the sales tax associated with that. So yeah, there's some hedges in the economy.
So BJ, if you can simplify it for me, the resident asked, I have to pay taxes. Why don't they have to pay taxes? Why are they getting their taxes abated?
Say businesses or individuals?
Individuals.
Different animal. I'm a taxpayer. I understand that. There are only a certain number of jobs that are created in a residence, if you will, that's associated with that. But it's just a mainstay practice in this country to incentivize economic development. And so units of government, just going back to the first slide, why do it? For those very 5 reasons: job creation, expansion of the tax base expands, and then units of government can make contributions or investments to improve the quality of life vis-a-vis infrastructure and so forth and so on. So if you don't incentivize, the idea that business is going to come here anyway is somewhat misleading. That is not the case. They can always go somewhere else. And so this issue about economic balance across the regions continues to be an issue in that regard, if in fact units of government do not adopt a sensible policy of being aware of economic development opportunities, but also providing an environment, business friendly, permitting, so forth and so on, but also a tax environment. The state of Texas has one of the highest tax profiles, in the nation when we think about property tax and the like. And so the state and local governments and school districts, for a large measure, under 313, must come together in a way to continue to provide job opportunities and employment opportunities for the citizens. it's a long answer to a simple question, but it's not a simple issue.
No, I understand, it's not.
You know, I asked Nathan Washington, I asked him the same question. With our 10-year viewpoint of our abatements that we have rolling off.
Yes.
If we take those abatements and we take all that out, okay, say we didn't get any of that,
You need those projects.
we didn't get any of those projects. What would a medium household house cost in Chambers County? What would it take for our tax rate to be at to provide the same services that we're providing now to our citizens without all that interest?
That's a powerful question. I can't give you a ready answer for that, but that's a very good question. There's there should be on our website, an interactive map that illustrates home values in the greater Houston area. It's under news and economic drivers, and Chambers County, and it's over a 10-year period. I mean, the values of homes in Chambers County are skewed to the 300s or so above, right? And so there's a reason for that. I mean, you've got school, you've got industry, and all the elements that make a very good quality of life. But it's a very good question about if then, right? And I think I'm not an economist, but we'll revisit that to take a look at that. The economic growth in the county has been substantial. I think in your resolution that you approved today, that in 2000, the tax base or the appraised value of the county was at 4 billion, and in 2020 was 21 billion. I mean, that's huge, and it lays the foundation for future growth for sure. Okay. So if you take out the investments that were made, or if half that would not be there, so that's just a simplified way of looking at it.
Not to mention the inventory that goes along with it.
And the sales tax.
Well, and all the other businesses that don't get tax abatements that are related to these businesses that are getting taxed.
Yeah, this slide is again for a small county.
So do you know what kind of abatement that Louisiana gives midstream enterprise, those kind of folks?
Yes, for many years, the Industrial Tax Exemption Program, or the ITEP, as it's known, and all of the folks who conduct and negotiate tax abatements and economic development agreements with Chambers County do them in Louisiana. They've got alternatives. They can go across their pipeline continuums in particular and site in Louisiana. For many years, the ITEP was a centralized provision of tax incentives where all the taxing entities deferred to the ITEP board to negotiate 100% tax abatement over 10 years. You can negotiate on top of that state income tax holidays, because the state of Louisiana has state income taxes, the state of Texas is not. And so the employer portion of the state income tax can be deferred up to 20 years. So 2 sessions ago, again, their session meets every year, they decided to decrease that because of concerns with some industries that they perceived as taken for granted that the ITEP was always going to be there, and they pushed back over some issues in East Baton Rouge Parish and just a number of other things. They dropped that ITEP from 100% tax abatement to 80%. But it's a given that so it's an 80% perfunctory routine tax exemption that can be negotiated in Louisiana. So that's very competitive. And so when we think about what's been happening, in Louisiana, Calcasieu Parish and their expansions and things that have occurred in Baton Rouge as well, that was main driver, those discounts that are associated with the IT.
Yeah, and I'm always worried about losing enterprise to Louisiana because they have business there.
They can go, Judge. I mean,
Facilities there.
when you look at the Aegis pipeline, the 250-mile pipeline, and other pipeline assets that they've constructed over the last several years, they can plug and play those investments anywhere along that continuum.
Can we turn the lights back on?
Oh, sure.
Make sure Tommy Ham's not sleeping.
Yeah.
I think I heard him snoring.
Real quick comment. I have had the privilege of getting to work with BJ quite a bit over the last few years, and he never ceases to amaze me. I'm glad you're working with us, BJ, and I do appreciate it.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Very much.
Yeah, I've been working with the EDF a long time, between Mike and BJ. It's been a great time. All right, I'll entertain a motion to accept the foundation report.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Gore, second by Commissioner Hammond. Those in favor? Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Thank you again, BJ.
Thank you, BJ.
All right, moving on, 6.1, discuss and consider purchasing Civic Rec Management System, trial building rentals, camping permits, and other park rentals in the amount of $10,463 with an annual renewal of $4,725.
Judge, I'd like to table this.
I'll second that.
Is that a motion? Motion by Commissioner Combs, second by Commissioner Gore to table. Those in favor? Motion carries. You two guys gonna work
Yeah, we need to get
With
with
them.
Austin and
and the park
Kurt,
department?
and get with this, but we need information.
Judge, 9.1, you might want to look at, you have somebody who's waiting.
Okay, so thanks, Sheriff. I'm almost there. All right, we'll table that one. And you two guys will work with him, right, Billy?
We will.
And Jim? Okay, thank you. All right, 6.2, discuss, consider request for overtime pay for Parks Recreation.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Gore, second by Commissioner Hammond. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Now, environmental protection, 9.1. Discuss, consider nuisance abatement located at 416 Bertrand Street, Lee, Texas. Come on up, ma'am. Good morning.
Good morning.
Wait a minute, let me find, Miss Ella Kramer.
Mhm.
Good morning. Pull that microphone down a little bit. Okay, you have 3 minutes to make your citizen comment, then we'll.
Okay, I got a dumpster for them and they're supposed to pick it up this weekend. And we found a guy to tear down the RV and he's gonna take it and make a trailer with it, take it to his farm and make a trailer with it. So that's gonna be gone now, and that increased 100%. And I'm thinking about getting them a shed for all the outside stuff that needs to be put inside. They don't have a backyard. That makes it kind of hard because they got all their stuff in front, But I'm thinking about getting them another storage shed to where they can put their stuff away and it's gonna look a lot nicer.
Okay, so has there been any progress made?
Yes.
Since the last time you were here?
Yes, they got all the garbage picked up, or most of it anyway, and we mowed and everything. When summertime comes, it's a real pretty yard because grass is there. Wintertime, it's all dead and stuff. It looks even worse, but it's the garbage that the dogs had gotten into and thrown all over the place. It's been picked up, and he made him a garbage bin so the neighbors' dogs get into it, and so they couldn't get into it no more. So that hopefully will solve that problem.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Victoria?
Good morning, Judge. Good
morning.
morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
So as Ms. Kramer stated, there has been some changes. It is, of course, not 100% cleaned up yet. As I had mentioned last Commissioners Court, the backyard, and I was just there this morning as well. I didn't step into the backyard, but I could see that the vegetation seems to be somewhat overgrown. And I saw some appliances that appear to be in the backyard. Like she stated, the garbage, which was the actual trash scattered around, is gone. There is still just miscellaneous items that look to be not functioning anymore that are lying around the ground. And of course, the biggest items would be the RVs that are located on the property. So there has been a slight change, but it has not been completely cleaned up.
Could I say something?
I see a dumpster.
Yes, they do have a roll-off dumpster.
So when are they supposed to get the RVs out of there? Can I step back up the microphone, please?
Okay. They're supposed to pick up the dumpster, I think he said this weekend. And then once that's moved, we'll have to get with the farmer and see when he can come and do that. He's very, and they didn't let us put any metal in the garbage, the dumpsters. So he's gonna have to haul that separately and scrap it, I guess, at the dump.
How long has it been? 30 days since she was here before?
About, yeah, somewhere around there.
Approximately. Thank you. Gonna give her another 30 days. Victoria, you okay with that?
Yes, sir.
Well, as long as you're making progress and, you know. and
Yeah,
You can, please, Victoria, where she recommends the court to.
okay.
Don't let 'em
All right.
tear those RVs down and leave all that scrap there though.
Well, there's several guys around town that'll come pick up scrap,
Oh, yeah,
so.
without doubt.
Yeah,
We got a lot of scrap guys, so.
She didn't hear you, Commissioner Gar.
I said, I mean, you mentioned that they was gonna use the frame of the RV and stuff for a trailer. I mean, if they're gonna do that, I mean, they need to take the RV with them, not tear it
Yeah,
down on your
well,
property.
yeah, well, he's gonna bring, I think what David was telling me was he's gonna bring his trailer over there and use the scoop to put in the trailer and haul it all off. And he's taking the frame to his place.
Okay, if he's gonna haul off that scrap, he may pick up the rest in that yard as he goes with it. and
Yeah.
They can get all that metal,
Mhm.
take it to the scrap yard. I mean, metal's up right now.
Yeah,
Make a few dollars.
to me, it's not worth
Pay for the fuel,
it. I'd rather work.
fuel.
But yeah, and the appliances too that aren't running, the dryer is good. They have an electrical thing, but
Yeah, if
They'll have to
Victoria's
take
okay
that.
with it, Judge, I mean, we'll give her another 30 days.
We'll table it to the second court next month, and
second court.
Okay.
Thank you.
yes, ma'am. Keep up the work. Good work. All right, 9.2, discuss, consider nuisance abatement located at 8031 Essex 565 Cove, Texas, 77523.
Yes, Commissioner. So we had brought this nuisance case to court back in October 2021. And court had approved it to be abated. Now, we had asked the Parks Department to assist us in mowing the grass and removing the rubbish and trash that was on the property. Now, Kirk was not able to be here today. He had other pendings with YPS, but I did get an email from him. And he stated that whenever they went on site, or his team went on site to commence the abatement, that the property owners were actually on site, and it appeared that they had started weed eating themselves and they were in the process of cleaning it up. That was back in October of last year. As of then, no changes have been made. As you can see in the pictures that I have provided from last week, the grass has grown up again now that summer is here. The cars are still in the front of the property. Now, Kirk did make a point to mention that for safety reasons, he did not feel comfortable sending his staff into a private property to remove, items that may or may not work for the property owner. Also, he wanted to discuss who grants their department or what department is granted the authority to determine what is and what is not considered trash on a private property. Now, regarding the vehicles, he did state, and we were aware of that they cannot take care of the vehicles. Now, we did find that the vehicles could possibly be removed, but that would be under the Texas Transportation Code, which, if we're not mistaken, Sheriff's Department can enforce that. Because it does not fall in our local government codes that we abide by for nuisance abatement.
Yeah, that's a legal question on those.
Mhm.
There's some legal questions you put out there from Ashley.
So that is our main concern on that property.
So what are you asking for today on anything? Or is it just
Well,
an
just
update?
just to further consider and discuss the possibilities we have with this property, whether we can actually go into abate it, or what
But we've already
legal-
approved to go forward with abatement. So it's the process of how you're going to actually abate, correct?
Yes.
So if you and Kirk will work with Ashley's office and maybe the sheriff included on, well, Ashley can do that on the vehicles.
Yes, because he stated, and we also want to make sure that we're following all the laws while we're trying
Absolutely.
to enforce our abatement and make it look neat.
Sure. And I appreciate you doing that.
So,
Okay, so we'll pull 9.2. Go ahead, Tom.
I talked to Kurt in detail about this because it's right down from my house. So they've been over there all weekend mowing and weed eating. Somebody had a younger person. So according to Kurt, these people, most of them got sick, was gone in and out of the hospital. They moved back into the residence. And I completely understand Kurt's concerns about going to somebody's house that is there and start throwing all their stuff away. So
Yes, sir.
regardless of what it is.
We understand
So,
it.
yeah.
Oh, sorry. I
So
didn't
I
mean
know that the
to.
carport's been removed, that fell down offside the house. So that effort was made. And then, like I say, by there several times this weekend, and I've seen quite a bit of activity out there mowing and trying to clean up some. So
Well,
the cars are a different issue altogether. Those cars have been sitting there for, I don't know, 10 years probably.
Yeah, they can give them away.
They had moved.
Somebody or some get them.
But yeah, we do need to address Kurt's concerns because
And to make a further comment, like you said, it does appear that they mowed at the front entrance, like right off of 565.
Right.
Now, within the fenced-in area that has not been touched, I was just there this morning, and
Right.
they did add another vehicle inside their fenced-in property. So now there's 4 vehicles to contemplate on that property that have to be removed.
Reckon you are.
yeah.
And we have attempted it, well, we have not sent any further notices to the to the property owner. At the day that I was out there last week, which with the pictures that I had submitted to court, there was a radio on. I tried to make myself known and tried to see if someone was there. I don't know if someone was there or not, but I just could hear the radio, so I assumed somebody may have been on the property, just I was unable to speak to them. So, I mean, if we could get a word with the property owners, I think we could, help understand and see where they stand as far as this is concerned, but they have not reached out to our office. So, that's what makes us have to move to bring it to court and push for the abatement, because we don't get a response from them.
All right, Commissioner Combs, Commissioner Combs and I were at United Way luncheon last week where Commissioner Rusty Snack was awarded the highest honor for local United Way. Is really proud of him and what he's done as volunteer. Do you think this is something United Way would come in and help these folks? I mean, it wouldn't hurt.
They were here, actually, we discussed it. They did not have the, they would not assist the lady a week. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. They don't get into.
Okay, well, it's just about.
They only help, from what Ms. Kramer had told me, they only assist in the cleanup when it's disaster related.
That looks like a disaster.
That,
Sorry.
so
Good thought.
I like the effort.
Okay, Tommy.
I'm asked for the same thing. If we can table this for 30 days.
Well, actually, we've already approved to abate it. It just needs the process. It doesn't need to come back.
The
You want to work with
legality.
Ashley and Sheriff
And
Victoria?
Victoria, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so let's pull it. I mean, if you need to come back to court, something, you put it back on.
Okay.
Okay? All
Sounds
right,
good.
thank you, man.
Thank you. Thank you. You have a good morning.
You too.
Thank you.
Mr. Brandon March, you want to introduce your guests? Yeah, with you today?
I do,
Morning, Tanner.
Tanner. My little field trip today.
That's good. Glad to see him. He's better looking than you are. I'm just saying.
My 8th grade daughter's in Washington DC with her mother and doing that field trip, so I felt like I took him to Chambers County.
So you guys
Tanner's
hanging
got a
out.
better gig.
Hey, you got the better end of that deal.
Thanks, Tanner. Thanks, Tanner. All right, 17.1, discuss, consider proclamation recognizing the week of May 1 through 7, 2022 as National Correctional Officers Employees Week. Sheriff, good morning.
Good morning. How are y'all?
Morning, Sheriff.
And I will make sure that Sean Perry spends some time with the abatement issue.
Yes.
If they'll just reach out to him, he's trained to help them. So it is National Corrections Week next week, starting May 1st. And I would honestly say that our jailers or corrections officers are probably some of the most unforgotten, because you all and citizens rarely ever see them unless they see them in the convenience store in uniform on their way to work, getting lunch. So it's a very thankless job. And I definitely think it's important. And I appreciate Commissioners Court recognizing them. I can read the proclamation, or one of y'all can. I'll leave that totally up to y'all.
Go ahead, sir.
Okay. All right, proclamation of the National Correctional Officers Week, Employee Week. Whereas Chambers County Sheriff's Office is committed to maintaining custody, security, and control in a safe, efficient, and constitutional manner. And whereas correction officers are unseen, often unappreciated, dedicated professionals who choose a career as a community servant to manage a diverse group of individuals. Some of them are who are very violent, mentally ill, and dangerous. Whereas corrections officers are integral to ensure the citizens of Chambers County are protected from the people who the criminal justice system has determined that are not safe to be at large in the communities. Whereas each correctional officer has exhibited courage, perseverance, integrity, and commitment in the performance of their duties in the past year. And whereas in 1984, President Ronald Reagan designated the first full week of May as National Correctional Officers Employee Week. Now therefore be resolved, the Commissioners Court of Chambers County, Texas, that we as Commissioners Court of Chambers County, Texas, declare the week of May 1st through May 7th, 2022 to be National Correctional Officers Employee Week in Chambers County in honor of the men and women whose fidelity to duty and professionalism keep our county and our citizens safe. Passed and approved by Chambers County Commissioners Court.
Motion by Commissioners Court, second by Commissioners Court. And all those in favor? Thanks, Sheriff. Thank you for all you do.
Thank you all.
You want a picture? The Sheriff come up.
Pass our regards along to all you jailers.
I will. Thank you.
There's a resolution somewhere. Come on, Sheriff. Wade wants a picture.
Yeah. Slow week in the news, man, he put sheriff in there, so. No, I gotta think. That's gonna change it.
Okay, Commissioner Pikes, if you could you go right here between the judge and the sheriff right here? And Commissioner Cohen, you can get between.
He's making me look little.
No, yeah. You gotta get down to the. Yes, sir. Okay, here we go. I'm gonna take several. Here we go.
You can move that way. That way, I think it's good, right there, Mark.
All right, there you go, yeah.
I am smiling, Sue.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ryan.
So I thought we let
Thank you,
us know
Sheriff.
what's going on. Oh, yeah.
Everybody has begun. We have two elections going on. We have a constitutional amendment election ordered by the governor that is available for every citizen in Chambers County. And we have different school districts. All three school districts have something on the ballot. City, Mont Bellevue, their election is being held at the Leadership Center on Eagle Drive on the west side of the county. Our election is being held at Goss Library on the west side of the county. Our hours are 8 to 5. Theirs are 7:30 to 4:30. Everywhere else in the county is 8 to 5 with early voting locations at the Juanita Hargraves Library in Winnie, the Legion Hall in Anahuac, and the Cedar Bayou Community Building on 146.
Thank you, ma'am.
Question for you. I went on and printed out my sample ballot, and it's only got the 2 constitutional amendments on it, but yet I'm in Barbers Hill. Didn't there I didn't have that ballot, didn't see that ballot.
That's because they're holding their own election, Billy. So you and I live in precinct 5. I had two constitutional ballots amendments as well. You have to go to the school.
Go to the
vote on
school to
the
get that?
school. And, well, we don't live in.
Okay.
Fremont, but
Okay,
school-
but so we're not doing a joint election with them.
Correct.
Okay, thank
So
you.
where again you voting in Barbershop? At the administration building?
Yes. It's not called the admin building. It's called the Leadership Support Center.
Say it again? That's kind of fancy.
Support Center.
Right.
Leadership support center, Your Honor.
All right, let's go to consent. Precinct 4.
Just to comment on 19.9, the numbers don't add up to what she said. I think in her comments, she said it was $2,500, but I couldn't figure out how she arrived at $2,500. Just comment.
Okay.
I thought it was ones above 2,500.
Over 2,500.
Yeah, over
Okay, all right,
2,500.
my bad. Never mind.
All right, precinct 3. Commissioner Hammond.
I do the same thing. I need to pull 18 EMS, Mount Belvieu EMS funding. Got inaccurate documentation.
Okay, pull 18. Anything else?
No, sir.
Precinct 2. Mr. Tuss. 1. All right, so let's vote on the consent agenda except for number 18, which was pulled. Motion by Commissioner Gore, second by Commissioner Tice. All the questions, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Nathan, we actually approved the green belt, so you're off the hook. I don't think you had anything else, did you? Yeah, 3.1. We approved it, so finally, thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you, man.
Appreciate it.
It was a love fest, but seriously, there was a lot of work put into it. We appreciate it. All right, with that, nothing further to come
We're
before
gonna
the
have
court.
executive session.
We don't have, Norm, we don't have anything exec session on, we don't have anything. executive
Good.
session. So at 11:30 a.m., we are adjourned. Sorry.
We can make our.
1918 is full.